College is a wild ride for young adults, and their mental health often suffers. This podcast addresses the inner battles many college students struggle with. You're listening to Normalize It Forward, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about young people's biggest mental health problems, how to handle them, and how to achieve a more resilient mind. Time to get rid of those heavy burdens and focus more on self-love and care. Here is your host, Marc Lehman.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Normalize It Forward. My name is Marc Lehman, and we are here today to talk openly about mental health and wellness. I am super excited to welcome in Brandon Saho today. Brandon, how are you?
I'm good, Marc. Thank you so much. You're one of the few that gets my last name right, so I'll take it. I'll take
Awesome.
the victory there.
I always stumble, so I'm glad I did. Brandon is a sports reporter who had battled depression and suicidal thoughts for years before finally asking for help in 2022. After beginning therapy and checking into a hospital, he found a new purpose in life: to help others. Saho quit his TV job and launched The Mental Game, where he hosts emotional interviews with athletes and celebrities. Guests include actors Terry Crews, former NFL star Chad Ochocinco Johnson, rapper Kevin Gates, The Office star Kate Flannery, and many more. Saho's mission is to save lives with impactful conversations about depression, anxiety, and mental health. Welcome. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. It's we're recording this on a Friday, so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling open. Thank you, for creating a platform and having this conversation, for everything you do as a therapist to help young people, which I think are who need to hear this stuff the most, because we weren't taught it in school, and the more we talk, the more we can help each other. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm looking at your picture of Mental Game in the back there. I want to hear more about that, because it's to me, it's such an awesome pivot that you've made. And I think that, through our podcasts and through our discussion, there's this ripple that takes effect and really hits a lot of different people in such a positive way. So tell us about the Mental Game.
Yeah, it's never something that I set out to do. Really didn't have this plan ever in my life to leave the sports reporter job that was my dream job that I had. But like a lot of people, I was struggling on the inside and no one knew. And so I had battled suicidal thoughts off and on from freshman year of high school all the way up until about 2.5, 3 years ago. And so I finally got to this rock bottom moment where I had to ask for help. I had lost 3 family members in 3 months. The woman I was going to marry, her and I were going through a really tough breakup. And then I had all this pressure on me at work. I was suicidal every second of every day for months, and finally had to start going to therapy and check myself into a hospital and really take care or try to learn tools to help my mental health for the first time ever in my life. And so the Mental Game idea was actually born in therapy, which is beautiful because, we're in TV, kind of like the athletes, except paid like, 0.0001% of what they make. We're on contracts and deals. And so my contract was coming up, and my therapist asked, did I want to stay at NBC in Cincinnati? What do I want to do? And I said, well, what if we combine, mental health and journalism? And that's kind of was the idea for the Mental Game. And so I started with a Bengals player, Sam Hubbard, that I've been pretty good friends with. He was my test dummy, if you will. And now it's grown where, we have over 60 episodes. I live in Los Angeles and get to interview some of the biggest stars in the world. And I never thought that this is what I'd be doing, but I really do feel like it's my true purpose. And we don't pay any guests. There's nothing fake about it. If they want to tell their story, they come on, and we're able to share that story across the country and across the world. And so for me, that's been the most powerful thing, is knowing that we might be able to help somebody out there that's struggling like I was in silence for 15 years. And if they see their favorite athlete or their favorite movie star or singer or actress talk about it, oh, they go to therapy, maybe I can too.
Right.
And so it's been really, really beautiful to kind of see something that I, struggle with privately now turn into my purpose.
So amazing. It really is so amazing. I have so many questions for you. But I have to say, just sort of initially, as a therapist, I mean, so much of what I do is private and, HIPAA and all of that stuff, that I can't clearly talk about any specifics of any patients that I see. But this is, your platform and my platform are an opportunity for people to talk sort of at their pace. and to talk about their issues if they choose to. And I love what you said. I mean, to talk about it in a way that you're giving a message to other people, it's okay. It's okay to talk about it, especially as men, right?
Yep.
And I find that part fascinating, because I think that's starting to change in a really nice way. I'm noticing more and more, certainly with people in the public eye, many more athletes and many more people in the entertainment industry, men talking about the issues that they're experiencing, which is just truly amazing.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I'm sure you've seen it more than me just being a therapist, but the stigma changing with men, I mean, that's why I was so afraid to talk about it. I'll never forget, and I know that every mental health treatment facility can be different in the way it's set up. The one that I went to in Cincinnati was about 10% one-on-one psychiatry and therapy with a psychiatrist, and then 90% of it was in a classroom setting of like 20 to 25 people, every race, background, age, color, creed. We just had this one thing in common, that we didn't want to live anymore and we needed help. And so I'll never forget, after like 2 days of not opening up, the therapist that was teaching one of these sessions said, "Brandon, why aren't you opening up?" And I said, "Look, I've always just kind of been," I said, words that starts with a B that I won't say on here, but like, I always kind of been a wimp my whole life. And she stopped me right there and said, "That's the problem with mental health, specifically men's mental health. And you think it's a weakness to be vulnerable, but really it's a strength." And that's what changed my life, hearing that from her. And that's when I started opening up and discovering more and learning that it's okay to show those emotions. And then I realized how many more people were open about it that I didn't know, and I went back to work, some of the Bengals players and Coach Taylor like really asked me questions and like made sure that I was okay. And, Joe Mixon is a guy that stands out that when I went back, him and I have always had a close relationship since I started working with the team. And like after we got done doing interviews, he like kind of put his arm around me, and then we walked out of the stadium into the parking lot. We're just talking about how I was doing, what happened, that would never happen, 5, 10 years. I mean, we did an event at LSU, and I had, Kevin Falk there, who was their all-time leading rusher at LSU, one of the all-time greats in the SEC. And he told this crowd of thousands of people out there, "If Brandon would have asked me to do this 5 years ago, I never would have done it." And so I'm sure you can attest to it too, Mark.
Yeah.
The stigma is changing, especially with men. It's something that we've needed for a long time, but it's so encouraging to see now.
It really is. And honestly, if I could go back for a sec, you made a comment when you were talking about your story, your journey, about being suicidal every day, every hour. And I want to stop and just talk about that for a moment, because I don't think people understand that, haven't experienced that's like having 100-pound backpack on your back, throughout the day. And the worst part is it's a secret. Nobody knows, right? So
Yeah, it's just crazy to look. I don't even recognize that person, that version of me, but I was like that off and on for 15 years. And like you said, every second, every day for this 3 to 4 month period when I was at my rock bottom. Yeah, it felt like the weight of the world was on me. I was kind of in this autopilot phase where I would, go to work from 2 to midnight and then go out and drink and I was an alcoholic and then take those slow walk home every night, drunk and sad and depressed and crying and suicidal, and then rinse repeat every single day. And it's really tough to describe that feeling because I can't even I can't even feel that again, at least right now. So yeah, it just puts you in this spot where you don't want to live anymore. And it's very, very scary to be in it. And you can't control those thoughts. And now looking back, it's like, man, I can't believe I felt like that and didn't tell anybody for so long.
yeah, and I think it really speaks to the concept when you hear people say, you don't know what other people are going through. You really don't. You really don't, because a lot of people, especially young adults, they're really good at hiding it. And if I'm your buddy and I say to you, hey, Brandon, how you doing? The first answer is like, I'm fine. And that's not an answer. You know what I mean? Because you're far from fine, right? But it's sort of like this mask that you wear, and it's like, I don't really feel comfortable talking about it, so I'm certainly not going to talk about it with you. So I'll just say I'm fine, and then maybe you'll go away, you know?
Yeah. Well, and thankfully for me, I know you probably tell your patients and the people around them whenever you have a conversation with them, like if someone's not being themselves, that's one of the biggest signs that
Oh
they're
yeah.
going through something. Thank God I saw that in myself. I was always a heavy drinker, but I just noticed that it was way worse, and I wasn't enjoying what I normally do. I wasn't going to the gym. I hated my job when it was exactly what I wanted my entire life, and people saw glimpses of it, but I hid it really well. And so that's what I would encourage people listening that might be struggling themselves or might not know it or see people around them. Like, if they're not being themselves, something might or probably is wrong, and it's okay to ask them about, like, "Hey, Brandon, why aren't you, like, cracking jokes like you normally do? Why don't you wanna go to the Bengals game like you always do?" Like, pointing that stuff out isn't confrontational, it's actually helpful, I think,
Mhm.
at least in my experience.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I think that, from one young adult to another young adult to be able to say, hey, everything okay? Like something seems off. Like I know you, you're my buddy. Like you're not smiling anymore. You don't seem as happy. Is everything okay? I think it takes some real courage to do that. But as you were saying with several people that you've known over the years, those are the individuals that care enough to ask the question, you
Yep.
know? Because in my opinion, you're not gonna get too many people that get upset if you check in with them.
Yeah.
They're gonna get the message like you care.
Well, if people truly love and care about you, they will help you no matter what. They might not understand what you're going through, they might not know how to help you, but if they truly love and care about you, they will, and I have probably, one of the biggest examples of that I think young men fear of, at 28 years old, calling my dad and him basically telling me to be a man and figure it out and rub dirt on it, the old, stuff we've been told our whole lives. And I always share that story because within an hour, he realized that that was the wrong answer, but he had never learned about mental health. He was an alcoholic and never addressed any of the stuff from losing his father at a young age or his alcoholism. And so about an hour later, he called me back and was like, "Hey, how can I help? What can we do?" And so that's
Good
why
for
when
him.
people
Good for
truly love
him.
and care about you, they will help you. And like now, my dad and I have conversations that we've never had before. And I always end the phone calls with "I love you" to him, my mom, when I see my best friends, when I see my neighbors, like
For
it just
you.
gone through stuff like that, it changes. I mean, it changes your perspective and you're so much more grateful for the people around you that are trying to help you.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally saving your life, and I think when a person is that depressed, a nice comment or a negative comment really makes a difference.
Uh-huh.
Gaining a little bit of support and even just checking in by text. Hey man, I'm here for you. You all good? What's cooking? How you been? Like any of that is helpful for a person to get to receive, right? And I love what you said. And I think I hear about it way too often with parents. There is that mentality certainly from dads to sons, like, hey, just rub some dirt on it, you'll be okay. You know, I am feeling like in my career, at least, I'm seeing and hearing that starting to change.
Uh-huh.
You're hearing more and more of the parent who didn't grow up with conversation around mental health actually trying to understand it, which to
Yep.
me is remarkable. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think parents, they didn't learn it. I mean, I'm 31 and I never heard about it in school from anyone. Like, I remember the DARE program about drugs and alcohol. I remember, like, the sex talk. I remember everything but being told about your mental health. And if you don't have your mental health, you have nothing. Like, this is
Right.
what, is the most important in my opinion when it comes to your health. And so, yeah, I've been really encouraged that, I think, and I'm sure you experience this with some of your younger patients, it's encouraging to see how this new generation is talking about it. Probably from my age to like 25 is maybe where we started to see the progress, but that Gen Z really is. They're leading the way. Like you
They're
can you
opening up.
can talk
Yeah.
all the crap about them being on their phones too much and TikTok, Snapchat, but they are the first ones to tell you how they're feeling or to offer help to somebody else, which is I think something that we can all learn from.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, the statistics for that group are awful. Like the anxiety levels and the depressive levels are as high as they've ever been. But on the other hand, it whether that's propelling them or other things, they are way more open, and I'm always impressed to hear peer to peer kids talking to each other about that stuff, which is just awesome. So I'm curious. So the mental game makes me think of, the concept behind how mental health plays into not just life, but athletic life. and
Uh-huh.
you've seen so much of that. I guess I'm curious if you were talking directly to a young athlete, who's been experiencing mental health issues, depression, anxiety, etc., and hasn't done anything about it. What advice do you have to offer?
Everyone struggles. Doesn't matter if you're playing the Super Bowl, you're in your rec team at high school, or you're playing on the AAU circuit in basketball. Every person struggles, and the thing that I hear from every athlete is that, and then also, the sport isn't you. It doesn't define you. It's just what you do. It's not who you are. And so knowing that your entire identity isn't wrapped around what happens on Friday night, or if you guys win the state championship, or if you get a scholarship to play in college, yes, it's a big part of your life, but that is not your life. You are more than just that athlete. I think that's the advice that I always try to give, but also just for anyone, the sooner you start having this conversation, whether it's with your coach, your mom, someone you love, your best friend, your teammate, the sooner you can help yourself and help each other. So just offering that vulnerability and starting that conversation sooner rather than later, that saves so many lives because there's people like me and my dad and millions that don't talk about it until it's almost too late. And
Yeah.
so I would always suggest to start that conversation as soon as you're feeling something. And don't be scared of it. It's okay. We all go through it.
Great. It's great advice. The V word, vulnerability, like that's a tough one, but it's super good advice. And I heard you say, and I think it's really spot on. Find your adult that you can trust. And there may be several. But there are people out there that, some young athletes won't go to. Like, perhaps you have a coach that is not going to understand,
Yep.
and maybe even limit your playing time if you go to them. So that's maybe not the person to go to. Find someone you can. Could be a teacher, could be a therapist, could be a neighbor, could be an aunt, uncle, could be anybody in your world. But your point's a great one. Be vulnerable enough to say, I need some help. I need to talk about something. I don't even know what the heck's going on, but I just need to tell somebody.
Yeah, and I think too, something I always try to suggest, if you do have that coach that might not understand, or the parent that you're worried about telling, having that teammate or wingman, whatever you want to call it, that can kind of be that middle person that says, "Hey, look, Brandon hasn't been himself. You don't see this, but he is crying every night when he goes to bed. He is upset at school. Like, you should really listen." And having that person maybe be that, middleman to
Yeah.
help get that point across can sometimes really help, I think, that person that's not understanding finally go, "Oh, wait, I do need to listen."
Yeah, that's a great point. So going back a bit, Brandon, I'm curious, for a male in this world, the concept of coming into counseling, I think, is really hard, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people walk into my office and they're like, "Oh, I could talk to this guy. He's a guy." Like I sort of use that sometimes with patients because I certainly understand that we definitely process differently than women do. I'm curious as to what that was like for you when you got the courage and you're sitting in this open room and you decided I gotta open up. Talk to us a little bit about that as a male, what that was like for you.
Well, I'd never gone to therapy until 2020, and so I started going to therapy when everyone felt alone, and as you know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
practice, so many people started going to therapy during the pandemic, but I wasn't 100% open with my therapist, about everything. I said that I had suicidal thoughts. I lied about maybe how recent they were or how bad they were, and then it finally got to the point, you know, 2 years later where I was at that rock bottom and I had no other choice. I wasn't gonna be alive if I didn't ask for help. There were so many nights. I mean, I don't wanna, get into the specifics of obviously means and methods and things that I struggle with myself, but I got to the point where I wrote a goodbye letter to my ex or my
Mm,
girlfriend at the time and my mom, stone cold sober at 10 AM in the morning.
wow.
That is when it kinda, like, went to me like, "Holy, like, this is the
Yeah.
moment. Like, I have to get help because I don't know what else to do." That was, pretty tough and traumatizing from, telling my employer to filing for disability, to seeing what the hospital bill is gonna cost, actually being there for 2 weeks. I mean, it was a very traumatizing experience, but I just dove headfirst because I didn't know there was no other option for me. And it's like anything in life, I think once you see it work, then it helps you.
Sure.
just small baby steps. Like when you go to the gym, you start to see, hey, I lost 5 pounds this month. Same thing for me, when it came to seeing that therapy worked or starting my sobriety journey. Once you see the stuff work and pay off and help you, it really does help you, kind of flip that switch of this is good for me. I am
Mhm.
better because of this. And it's not going to happen overnight. You're not fixed in 2 weeks or fixed right away when you start therapy, but you learn these tools that we've started to talk about that you never heard of before. And so once I got comfortable opening up, it really did change the game for me. And obviously, I do that now where my whole life story is on the internet besides my ex's name. And it was weird at first, but I see how it can help people, whether it's, DMs that I get or people that come up to me at games or events. I mean, I drove Uber to try to make ends meet when I quit my job when I started this, and I'll never forget this kid, like, he was half in the bag after being out for a night, but it's like 1 AM and I'm driving him home and, like, out of nowhere, he just starts, like, reciting my goodbye letter that I posted, just
Wow.
and I was like, I don't even remember typing all of this. And then I looked up, he's like not on his phone, he's like, "Yeah, man, that really helped me like 6 months ago when you posted that." And I'm like, "Wow, that is
Wow.
crazy to
That's
hear."
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, seeing how it can help people, and you don't always see that, and sometimes you can't reach everybody, and you do hear about things where people, did take their own life, or
Yeah.
maybe they didn't, result to self-harm, and that breaks your heart, but you just try the best that you can to help anyone, and that vulnerability, the big word, the big V word, or whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
it is the biggest thing I think that can help people because it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. That's huge, that's huge, wow, that story about that young man, that was powerful. I'm so thankful that, you tolerated that, space and that journey and the vulnerability because, one, it's great to connect with you, but I think your effect and the ripple of what you're doing is clearly touching a lot of individuals, and I think that I think when a person's in that headspace, they're not thinking about the chapters that haven't been read, right? They're just thinking about the chapter they're in, and maybe this is the end. I had a patient of mine years ago, working with me for a while in his 20s, and he was like 27, 28, and he shared with me that, he couldn't believe that he had made it to 27, 28 because at 21, he thought his life was just done. It was just gonna end. So, like, that concept of like, I need to now sort of reconfigure. Like, I've got
Yeah.
all this world in front of me, all this space in front of me, which is truly amazing. I mean, and it's to your credit. I think about progress, like you said, you lose some weight in the gym, that's great. But this type of progress opens up your world, and other people's.
Sure, and I think the thing that I always try to share are the 2 things that really gave me that light and kept me going. The biggest things that have helped me is number 1, do something when you're feeling a certain way, you're sad, you're depressed, you're suicidal, you have to be vulnerable and talk to somebody or reach out for help. And number 2 is what you're getting at with that 27, 28-year-old at 21. I thought the same thing. I thought this is the end of the world, it's never gonna change. Feelings are temporary. They don't last forever. It's just a chapter in your life. It is not your life. Like, and it took me so long to get to that realization, but the feelings are temporary thing really helps me on big picture stuff. When it came to when I was suicidal, the daily stuff of like, I got a cold right now and my studio flooded last night. I can be mad for 10 minutes, but like, hey, let's do this interview. I'll get back on some other meetings and then I'm going to try to go for a hike. Like, you
There you
just
go.
got to have those thoughts that really enforce that it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. So, Brandon, I mean, part of normalize it forward is I ask my guests if you could think of a friend, a coworker, or a relative to nominate to keep the conversation moving. Would love to get your thoughts on that. Anyone come to mind?
I had a lot come to mind. The one that really hit home for me is Dayton basketball coach Anthony Grant. He
Nice.
lost his daughter 3 years ago, Jada, to suicide. She was at Dayton. He's the head coach at Dayton, and she had, been in therapy. There were warning signs. They were in the process of helping her as much as they could in that moment. And I didn't know him. I mean, I knew who he was. I had no connection to him at all. And he had reached out to me 2 years ago asking for any type of guidance, help. His wife, Chris, was amazing too, just wanting to connect. And they started Jay's Light to honor her. And then every year at Dayton, they host a mental health event, town hall inside the arena, and then a charity basketball game where all the proceeds go to different mental health foundations in Ohio. 2 years ago, they played Ohio State. Last year, they played Xavier, and it is strictly all about mental health. They play the convention basketball game, but every single time out, clips from the mental game are on the screen. I was a part of the TV broadcast this year. They have the individual players of both teams talking about how it's impacted them. And so for me, I think Coach Grant and his wife, Chris, are people that I would like to nominate just because they are helping people. They've been through it themselves. And just like a lot of us that have experienced that loss or been at that rock bottom, you find a way to help others because you don't want anyone else to go through that. And they really, truly are helping keep that conversation alive and keeping people alive.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I look forward to connecting with them. What a wonderful organization they've formed and through a really tragic event. But appreciate you putting that out there, nominating them, and I'll look forward to connecting with them. Well, I could just say this, Brandon. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. I appreciate your honesty and your genuineness. I think it takes a lot of courage for people to get up here and talk about themselves. But I know you're doing it for a reason. I know you make that connection in your head of, hey, if one person hears this and they get some assistance, it's all worth it, So thank you. Thank you from my point of view. I appreciate you doing all of this.
Well, thank you for the same thing. I mean, I get the chance to host conversations and speak at colleges and high schools and events, and I might be able to help people connect the dots. But yourself, amazing mental health professionals, therapists, psychiatrists, practitioners, you guys are the ones that are truly saving lives. And, I look at you guys as one collective group that is on this mission together. And without people like you, I probably wouldn't be here having this conversation. So I couldn't echo that more towards you.
Appreciate it
as well. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Takes a village. That's for sure. So, well, you got a friend in me, Brandon. So we will stay connected and remain in supportive of each other and our mission and continue doing what you're doing. I really, really believe a lot in what you're doing and everything that is behind the mental game. So good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you. And can I say go Huskies? They need
Absolutely.
it right.
Please do. Yeah.
My boy Dan Hurley's having some fun right now. But yeah, go Huskies. I got a chance to sit down with him. I love Connecticut. Hoping to get back there soon. Maybe we'll see you next time.
Would love to do that. Would love to do that. Thanks again, Brandon. You have yourself a great day.
Awesome. Thanks. You too.
See ya.
That's all for this episode of Normalize It Forward. May this conversation serve as a reminder that you are never alone in facing your mental health struggles. There are always people who can help. To dive even deeper into our journey of normalizing one of the biggest issues young people face, check out more episodes of the show at youareheard.com. It's UAREHEARD.com. Continue gaining access to the right tools, the best resources, and the most insightful advice to achieve positivity, mindfulness, and genuine happiness.